All right, we are going live. Apologize for being a little bit late. Note to podcasters that are using um, StreamYard: do not upload two hour long uh, YouTube videos to YouTube right before you go live on StreamYard and try to upload a live feed. So, learning my lessons here. All right, so I want to make sure that let me share this real quick. I'm going to post it. All right. And let me just share this real quick. Sorry, until I get a producer, I got to do this by myself. Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Bitcoin Podcast. I'm going to send this out to a few buddies of mine. I'm going to send it to Tomer. Tomer, I need to have you on the show. I'm trying to tune into your my former show. Thank you so much for taking that up and doing the Philosophy Sunday. I really enjoyed that when I was doing that every Sunday. And now I believe Tomer's still doing it. So if you are not checking out his spaces on Sunday, I think he still does it, what, 8 to 10, something like that, Eastern. You should, because Tomer is one of the coolest guys, one of the greatest minds that, or at least one of the minds that I like to hang out with and talk philosophy and Bitcoin. He finds a way to tie philosophy into Bitcoin. So hopefully we can get him on the show soon. I do have a guest coming up. Y'all might know him. He goes by Bitcoin, Adam O. Great guy. If you want to know about mining Bitcoin by using stranded energy at these flare gas wells, they can't get. So let me explain that just a little bit. And I know it's not a show topic for today, but me and Adam will kind of go into it a little bit deeper. So this is kind of a teaser. So what is stranded energy? So you've got some form of energy. It a could be a river in the middle of a jungle where you could build a dam, but who's going to buy the electricity? Unless you've got a big city, then you've got the same problem that Three Gorges Dam had, is which you have this huge power infrastructure, this dam that can make tons of megawatts and gigawatts of electricity, but no one to buy it because you can only transmit electricity around 500 miles. So if you don't have a massive population that can consume this and turn it into something valuable, buy it from you, then you can't fund that project and that river just keeps flowing. Or, okay, so what's another form of stranded energy? Did you know that they drill for oil and there's a lot of natural gas that you find? And if there's not a pipeline close by, it's really hard to bring that natural gas to market. Um, we don't have that problem here in South Louisiana because we got pipelines all over the place. But in places like Colorado, in places like North Louisiana, places like West Texas, where they don't have natural gas pipelines that they can just run a line to and pump that natural gas and sell it, it's a waste product and they have to flare it off. Or an old well just kind of goes dormant. It's no longer profitable. Um, Income Bitcoiners looking for cheap fuel sources, cheap electricity, um, and they can consume all the electricity you can ever feed them, especially if it's cheap. And Bitcoin brings a unique thing to the energy sector, as in for the first time in human history, we have portable demand. Bitcoin mines are super dense, super power dense. One C can of Bitcoin miners can consume, a couple megawatts of electricity, and they're actually growing in power density. Um, the amount of demand you can cram, the amount of electrical demand you can cram in one C can with Bitcoin miners is is insanely dense. Think of um, a Bitcoin like a community, like a neighborhood, and how large that piece of property is, and how each home only consumes. You'll run a 200 amp 220 panel to a home. That's actually a decent size. That's not a small home. That's like a 4 bedroom, 5 bedroom, 3,000 square foot, air conditioned, heating, all the stuff that goes in there. You would run a 200 amp panel to it. That's normal. Um, and then it would only draw like maybe 50 amps, 60 amps on average, the whole house, right? I'm not saying when you turn everything on, you're cooking and drying clothes and all that stuff, it might peak a little, but on average, you're only drawing 50, 60 amps of 220 for a home. One little shoebox sized Bitcoin miner can consume 50 of what a whole home would naturally consume. And then you can fit like two, three, 400 of these small Bitcoin miners inside these C cans. And so you can imagine that, each one or two Bitcoin mine represents an entire home worth of energy consumption. And you can throw it in something the size of an 18 wheeler, truck it to the middle of nowhere, um, put it on side of a big 2, 3, 4 megawatt generator, hook that generator up to a stranded natural gas where they're normally having to flare this off and pay penalties for flaring natural gas, or they just cap it and just it goes dormant. And so this is the world that Adam O, my guest tomorrow, this is his world. And he was one of the guys that spotted this earlier, wanted to get involved, and his boss and his company that he works for, they're like pioneers in this industry and have done some really cool works. And so he explains it way better than me. I know just enough about his industry just because I used to be a master electrician and I understand how the electricity works. I'm a fan of Bitcoin, but he goes super deep and can really bring us up to speed on that market of turning on these Bitcoin mines in the middle of nowhere. A friend of mine here found another similar well in Mississippi. He's out of New Orleans. Need to get him on the show as well. So anyway, he's coming on tomorrow. I'll tell you a little bit about that. And then next week, I think it's either going to be Monday or Friday. Ahmad Amus, this is Saifedeem's brother, who is a medical doctor up in Boston. I want to say he's a neurosurgeon or a neurologist, one of those two. We'll find out tomorrow. He's been on the show before, but this guy, I mean, he is a wealth of knowledge. Really, really good book. Last time we talked a lot about the carnivore diet. We talked a lot about how important sunlight is to your mental health, your eye health, your skin health, just overall general health. Um, so he's also a great Bitcoiner. And so going to have him on the show on Monday. Got a couple other guys coming in as well. So can't wait to get all this together. Give me about 30 to 60 days to really get my team on board. They're still working super hard on this other brand that I'm building, the Daily Parks and Rec show, which I love this community. This is a community that huge old industry that's got infrastructure in every city in America, baseball fields, community centers, swimming pools. And they have no real media companies like I discovered in Bitcoin, podcasters, YouTubers, writers, you name it. I mean, Bitcoiners just have it all pouring out the woodworks. I love being part of that community of content creators. And then, and they're only 15 years old and they're kind of very new kid on the block, taking the world by storm. And then you've got this Parks and Rec community that's near and dear to my heart that really didn't have anybody building media to represent them and tell their stories. So said I would do it, loved it, loved creating this stuff. But of course, y'all know my heart and passion is in Bitcoin. I want to bring as many people to it as I can. And so had to do this at night. So by day, I'm doing my Parks and Rec show, and by night, I'm doing my Bitcoin show. And I think this works out a lot better for me, my schedule and stuff now that I'm in my new place and got my my little library. It's slowly growing. I've got about 4 or 5 times that many books. I just got to get them out of storage, put them on the shelf, that kind of stuff. So slowly putting it together. Also, I just uploaded 2 videos. Yet last night's video was episode 3. Episode 2 was with Morgan. Have Morgan back on the show. He's a guy that's at my local meetup. Love chatting with him. And so got a lot of stuff going. Got both of my designers working on a logo, working on an intro, an outro, all kind of cool stuff. And then they'll start making thumbnails for the YouTube channel. So YouTube channel is very young. It's the Daily Bitcoin podcast. So check it out. Only got 1 subscriber. I really haven't been promoting it at all because there's really not much content. I just this will be the 4th one up there. But, if you want to rewatch the shows, you can either scroll through the X feed here, or you can find it on YouTube. That's the only 2 places I have right now. I cannot wait to get all this tied in with Nostr through Damas. So if you haven't checked that out, and you don't know about Nostr, and that's like the next great thing on planet Earth. It's the decentralized free speech protocol. One of the platforms that exist on that is Damus. I'm still learning a lot about it. This is like, I would say, year one for me in Damus and Nostr protocol. So I'm still very much learning about that. I feel like my first year in Bitcoin, where I just didn't even know what the difference crypto was, and altcoins and shitcoins and all that stuff. And so now I've learned a lot more. Got to go back to school. Got to learn about what Damus is. Got to learn about what the Nostra protocol is, how it works. I think that's very much a part of the Bitcoin people, the Bitcoin um, world that's coming our way. I think you need to learn both. And I will encourage all content creators like me. We got to get on Nostr. We have to put our information where it's uncensorable. And Nostr is the future of social media across all these platforms. Until then, hopefully Elon does his job and just holds everybody at bay from censoring everything. And so I think he's doing a great job with that. Hopefully, it'll give Nostr more and more time to just grow to scale. Thank you to all the Bitcoiners and non-Bitcoiners that are coders working on building that underlying infrastructure in Nostr. It's like the early days of the internet over there. It's kind of not as user friendly, but it's getting there. Damus being one of the platforms built on it, it feels a lot like X. You can just see them improving, making improvements every day. Any support you can give them, please do. Anybody building anything on Nostr, please help them out if you can contribute anything at all, Bitcoin or your talent or your time, or if you just want to put your content on there. I'm working that way, guys. I think by the end of the month, I should have enough bandwidth to get my stuff here on X, uploaded to YouTube, on Nostr, on Damus, and hopefully we can just be one of the content creators in this new space where I think the future needs to be for humanity to be free, be able to speak freely, and to be able to own and hold its own property. All right, so moving on to the topics for today. So I've often been asked, what is the difference between commodities and security, and why is that important to Bitcoin? And honestly, I did not know the difference. It wasn't until Michael Saylor started to point this out, and it was around the time that Bitcoin itself was, up for definite being defined by the U.S. government, the SEC, and the big hot debate was: is it going to be a commodity? Is it going to be a security? While I'm watching this play out, I'm like, what's a commodity? What's a security? I should probably know this stuff. But I'm just a dumb electrical engineer or electrician, and I'm not don't have a degree in finance, and so off to the dictionaries, listening to Michael Saylor. And so please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm about to have some really good financial minds in the next couple of weeks. Thomas, he's CFO, he's got all the stuff. He's come on the show before. He's the CFO of the largest Bitcoin only exchange in Europe. So I'm sure he'll correct me. So Thomas, here you go. I'm going to give a terrible definition. This goes out to Rajat as well, and any of the other finance guys that work in the Bitcoin space. I'm getting ready to embarrass all of us. So here's what I think commodity security, why it's important, what it is. I'll define it best I can, maybe grade school, high school level, and then we'll get the heavy hitters in here to kind of clean up the mess I'm getting ready to make. All right. So as I understand it, a commodity, often we think of like oil, oranges, wood, steel, gold, silver. These are things that don't have an issuer. And what is an issuer? Good question. What I'm thinking is you have a team of people, like say the at Tesla, and like at Apple. So these are people that you could say make Tesla stock. They bring value to it. The brain trust of the company of Tesla, the product they make, and it resides within some type of collaborative relationship with the U.S. government, right, and even other governments. And so, if China wanted to declare war on Tesla, threaten Elon Musk, let's say the U.S. government could do the same. They could really hurt the value and the utility of Tesla, the company. Okay, but what's harder to declare war on is the properties of gold. Now, gold is an element on the periodic table. Um, No US, no government, no military, no dictator is gonna show up one day and say, "Our gold is gonna act like aluminum," and and then they're gonna change the properties of gold to maybe be exactly what the properties of aluminum are. It's an element on the periodic table, can't be changed. No one there's no CEO of gold that could die and hurt the stock. And so you can start to kind of see the differences between a commodity and a security. Commodity is something that you can kind of hold. It's solid. It's a known entity. It can be traded globally. It's a known entity. Um, Gold is gold is gold. You know, oranges are oranges. Barrel of oil is a barrel of oil. I know there's different types of barrel of oil, but to get the point, is that it's almost like a product of nature, right? And it has a lot to do with its known quantity. And one of the things that that Bitcoin has is it's a known scarce asset. It's 21 million. It's verifiable. It doesn't have a CEO. It can't be changed by some government or some CEO or some development team. And this is the core difference between it and cryptocurrencies and altcoins. And a lot of my guys call them shit coins. And why do they call them shit coins? It's because they may look the same, they may sound the same, they're on blockchain, they're both cryptos, they're both digital assets, but these altcoins have teams and men that made them and that are still active in their leadership, that still have, um, a lot of control in this product and its value, and most importantly, they hold a ton of the tokens. There's a pre-mine. A pre-mine means there's a time when you can go, and I'm getting ready to butcher this again, so I'll get all my guests to correct me that know a lot more. Notice I always bring guests that know way more about Bitcoin than me. So usually they kind of clean up my mess I make. So please clean it up in the comments, guys. Um, be as brutal as ever. I anticipate that. I love that. Thank you for correcting me. I need all the correction I can get. My job is just to stir the pot, make a mess, and then in come the really knowledgeable Bitcoiners and say, "Yeah, you're kind of right, but let me correct you here." So, um, Bitcoin never had a pre-mine. Satoshi actually got his first Bitcoin just by mining the Bitcoin. Um, Whereas, you know, let's say you're making a coin, you're making an altcoin, you got this new digital project, and it's going to revolutionize the medical industry because it takes personal records and uses the blockchain and blah, 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 and it just goes on. And so, great use case, right? It's convenient is that these developers of these tokens issue themselves 20 to 30% of the supply of that token, and they're just holding it. And at first day, it's worth nothing, but then they start selling it, and then somebody from, you know, crypto land and Coinbase and all these Bitcoiners and gamblers and looking for the next big 100x, 1000x, they start piling in. And this coin goes from worth nothing to worth, you know, $500 million, $10 million, $100 million. And then that 30% that these five coders have is now worth 30% of 100 million. So you've got $30 million. The temptation is that the developers start to pull their money out. But what money did they put in? What energy did they put in? Yes, they wrote the code, but they didn't do any work. They didn't mine. They didn't use compute to verify transactions like Satoshi did. They didn't um, uh, have computers using electricity to earn the Bitcoin. Satoshi did. There was never a pre-mine. And now the only way you can get Bitcoin, and forever, it was to mine it or buy it from somebody who bought it from somebody who mined it. All Bitcoin was mined. No Bitcoin was just given just because you were the guy that started it. But that's how the majority of cryptocurrencies are started. Just because you start it, you get 30% of all the coin that was ever created, that will ever be in supply for that one token. And so this is the major difference and the major weakness for non-Bitcoin crypto is that it has issuers, it's got development teams, it's got pre-mines, and they've got massive control. When somebody controls 30% of the supply, that's huge. Even Satoshi himself, and he had to mine it, he only has about 1 million Bitcoin. So that's a what roughly a 20th of the Bitcoin, or even a little bit smaller than that. And so he's got 4 or 5% of the Bitcoin. And that's the founder who put in the hard work, who mined, who put forth. And by the way, anybody could have mined, and many people did mine. in those early days, in those 2009, 2010s. And that's how a lot of Bitcoin was that's how you got your Bitcoin back then. Okay, so I'm sure something I said was slightly off, maybe drastically off. So I can't wait till people somewhat correct me. I think that's how I understand it. That's the gist of it. All right. So difference between commodity and a security. Right now, you're seeing a lot of these XRPs and a lot of these altcoins that are trying to get the same qualification as Bitcoin as a commodity. Now, why would you want to be a commodity instead of a security? Well, commodities are governed differently. Securities are governed by the SEC. The commodities governed by some other board. I forget the name. Look it up. And commodities tend to be the more stable thing that large institutional money, which is part of my second topic, large institutional money does not want to take the risk of a leader getting sick, dying, um, giving the business to his son, and his son's not quite the leader he was. Um, the government that that company resides in could attack that company, maybe take it on as one of its things that it has, and then the government runs it into the ground. And so these are risks that people who think long-term wealth preservation, massive wealth preservation. So who is preserving the massive wealth? Who are these institutions? Who are these people? Let me name a few. Number one, a nation state, a pension fund, a sovereign wealth fund, a big family office, um, corporate treasuries, public corporate treasuries. There is a place for these institutions, these wealth managers to take risk, but there is a much larger place for them not to take risk. That's why they hold gold. That's why they hold silver. That's why they hold real estate portfolios, because there's a part of their portfolio that is low risk, no risk. Buy, land in Manhattan, buy farmland, buy real estate, buy gold, buy silver, buy copper, buy stuff that just when the shit hits the fan, this stuff is going to hold its value and weather this whatever storm we've got. In a war, you can always sell copper, oil, energy, stuff like that. And you might not make a ton of return and the ROI might be low, but at least you're not going to lose everything in some catastrophic scenario. So people that are risk averse have a big appetite for commodities, not securities. And Bitcoin sits as a commodity because it's low risk. Why is it low risk? There's no CEO to screw it up. There's no CEO to die. There's no CEO to threaten. There's no throat to choke. And this is a superpower of Bitcoin. It's decentralized. No one controls it. It just works. Okay. It's just an open protocol and it's working. And much like gold, it just sits there. It's gold is gold. Bitcoin, one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. That's always going to be that way. There's no way to print anymore. It's a perfectly scarce asset. So you're buying digital scarcity. A lot of these other tokens, they can change. They can increase the supply. They can change its function. They can get, and I will say all of them, gold included, Bitcoin included, um, countries can declare war on certain things. They can declare war on gold. They can manipulate the gold market. They can try to control Bitcoin. They can try to shut it down. And if Bitcoin tries to get shut down, sometimes the US dollar gets shut down by its enemies. And so, which of these assets is going to weather the inevitable storm? And it's not that Bitcoin can't be destroyed, it's that it'll be the last thing standing. And when you're risk averse, you want to buy something that'll weather storms. I mean, you could say Bitcoin is indestructible because it's just cryptography. It's just code. It's just language. So even if a meteor hits and destroys Earth, did it destroy math or is math still around even before humans? It's, maybe a philosophical debate, but Bitcoin literally is just language. It's just code. And so it's not something that can truly be destroyed. It's just a thought. It's an idea. It's like destroying algebra. Can the US government destroy algebra? Can, China and Russia destroy English? Can they forbid people from speaking it? I mean, good luck trying to stop people from communicating in the language they want to communicate in. And Bitcoin really is just language. It's code. And it's a way that we've found a way to put value inside of code. So anyway, Little bit of talk on the difference between commodity and security. Bitcoin's a commodity. Everything else is going to be labeled a security. And so you're never going to get the big appetites, the big institutions to put something that's not a commodity on the balance sheet. And then when you've got the apex commodity of commodities, like the apex predator of assets to own, Bitcoin's going to be the one that takes the lion's share of the the money we can't lose, the low risk money, the uh, when all things fail, what's one thing we can buy that's always going to be rare, that we can always count on it being stable, on to where it can't be stolen and we can still use it and it's globally recognized. A lot of these cryptocurrencies just are not that. They're not globally recognized. They're not safe. They're not secure. They're securities. They're not commodities. So anyway, think I've talked enough about that. So I know I probably left a lot out, and a lot of the economists that write on this a lot, I'm reading some of their books. They're probably panicking, thinking, oh my gosh, let me get in there and help him. So if you're an economist and you would like to come add some clarity to the mud I just created, please come on the show, straighten me up, tell us what I'm missing, fill in the gaps. I'd love to have you on the show. But give me a couple of weeks while I'm still ramping up this and getting all the tech stack and software stack squared away. Okay. Next topic, how institutions invest in Bitcoin and how it affects volatility. I can tell you how many times I'm on a Bitcoin show, I'm on a Bitcoin space, and they're like, who's selling? Like, Bitcoin's going up. We're doing great. This happened. We got this. We've got past the halving. We've got institutional adoption. We've got all these states bringing it on. We've got institutions buying. We've got states putting it or threatening to put it as a treasury reserve asset. We've got countries buying. Like, how come it went to 93,000 today? What the hell's going on? Okay, let me clue you in a little bit. If you're, we're going to give you a seat as a money manager for a pension fund. Okay, so let's say you're the Wisconsin pension fund. They just put Bitcoin on the balance sheet recently in the last few months. You're risk averse. Okay, that means you don't want risk. You can't lose the money. This has got to be there. You're paying out pensions of retired people. This is their retirement, right? Okay, so what do you put your money in? Bitcoin's very risky, and then all of a sudden, pension funds start looking at it not as a risky asset. Okay, these are risk averse people, so they buy Bitcoin. And how much Bitcoin can they buy? Well, they have to get permission from the governing body to buy the Bitcoin. And they say, okay, we voted, we thought about it, whatever, 1%. So let's say you're a $100 million fund. That means you get to go buy $1 million in Bitcoin. Well, you buy Bitcoin at 50,000, 60,000. And now you've got 1% of Bitcoin. Then Bitcoin goes to from 50,000 to 100,000. Now you've got $2 million in Bitcoin. That's a problem because you told your board you were only going to have 1% of your fund in Bitcoin, and now you got 2%. And so you've got to sell off your best performer. You're basically punishing Bitcoin for doing its job and, preserving capital. And so this typically flies in the face of the individual investor. If you have 100,000 in something and it doubles, you're celebrating and maybe trying to buy even more. But these institutions are governed differently. They fight for, let's say, 1% of something they want to put their money in, and they got to keep it at 1%. And if they want to go to 2%, they have to go back to the board and ask permission to invest 2%. If it goes from 1% to 2%, you got to sell it back down to what your thesis says. So you have an investment thesis. Your investment thesis is going to say, here's our thesis. We're going to buy 1% Bitcoin, 10% gold, 10% equities, 10% some other securities, 10% something, and you basically come up with a portfolio. Now you got to stick to those percentages. And if anything changes, you got to rebalance the portfolio. Some people do this at the end of the day. Some people do it monthly, quarterly. It depends on how the structure of this wealth manager is. And this is the world of most wealth managers. And so now notice that's a different thought process than the individual that buys Bitcoin. So it's normal for the individual to not understand why an institution would sell their best performing asset Why wouldn't they buy more? And this is why. The individual would be like, wow, Bitcoin's doing good. And even the guy that's new, they're FOMOing in, they're like, fear of missing out. Let me buy even more. And they're buying it all the way up. And then they overbuy, blow off top, and then it crashes. And they basically buy the highs and sell the lows when they panic. So don't do that. Don't buy the high, sell the lows. Don't buy the lows, sell the highs. Just buy, buy, buy all the time. Only buy, only pump, don't dump. Buy Bitcoin constantly. It's a rare asset. The best way to buy Bitcoin, my opinion, there's two best ways to buy Bitcoin: dollar cost averaging and smash buy. When do you dollar cost average? You put it as a bill in your, you put it as a bill. Now, this is just how you acquire an asset that you believe in. Um, so you want to take a part of your income that's towards savings and you use Bitcoin as your long-term savings mechanism. And the best way to do it is just to allocate a certain amount of your income to it, just like you dedicate a certain amount of income to rent, to bills, to your car, to entertainment, to vacation. You should dedicate a certain amount of your income to an asset you believe in. I believe in Bitcoin. Do your own research on that. But as you do your own research, you will find that whether it's Bitcoin or not, you should have some long-term storage strategy. And I think that if you read like I did and you get around the Bitcoin people, you understand it on a maybe technical layer, you'll maybe draw the same conclusion that I did, that I'm all in on Bitcoin. Everything I own is Bitcoin, aside from these books and a few other things. My Tesla, everything else is just in Bitcoin. Um, so the institutions think differently. Um, they have a big bucket of money, they buy it all at once, and they got to keep it balanced. Anyway, I wanted to pass that on to y'all, um, because that was something that I constantly get asked. Why? What's the difference between commodity and security? And why can't I buy this XRP and this other stuff? A lot of crypto stuff out there. I will say this: cryptos, altcoins have marketing budgets. They have marketing dollars. They're businesses. If you want to buy an altcoin, go ahead, do it. But treat it like you're buying Apple. Treat it like you're buying Tesla. They're just in the open market competing. Okay, gold's not competing. Gold doesn't care. Bitcoin doesn't care. Oil doesn't care. These commodities don't have groups of people that are trying to spend marketing dollars on it. Now, you might have a gold dealer that's spending marketing dollars, um, but you'll never see gold itself pitching its deal because it's just an element on the periodic table. Bitcoin has no marketing dollars. It is decentralized. It's going to keep doing its thing. Um, Altcoins, not so much. Remember, if you've got 30% of all the coins in some altcoin project, you're going to allocate some of that to just get the word out, pump it up, get celebrity endorsements, get political endorsements, get on this chain and this exchange, and we got a new wallet, and we got a new functionality, and the hype is just insane. I got rolled into all that. Almost every Bitcoiner out there did at one point. We all had our shitcoining stage, and we were a big part of that just whirlwind of get quick, get rich quick, and number go up. And that's something that you're probably going to find yourself in if you're an early Bitcoiner and you don't read the right books and study all the other properties of Bitcoin aside from just a number go up mechanism. Yes, it's going to do that, but remember, it's got no hype, it's got no marketing dollars, it's got me and a thousand other crazy Bitcoiners doing our best to just get the word out there for the sake of humanity, because it's just you got to do your part. You gotta build on what you believe in. I believe in this. I believe it's part of a bright future of humans being free, owning property, of controlling their wealth, and putting the wealth and the control of that wealth in the hands of the value creators of the world. If you create value, you bring it to market, you hopefully sell it for more than it costs you to make it, you have some left over, you put this in an nest egg for a rainy day, and you build wealth for your family and yourself and freedom, because your wealth can give you time. It gives you a long time preference. So We are the marketing division of Bitcoin. Not that it needs one. Bitcoin's going to keep doing what it's doing. I think if every Bitcoin podcaster died tomorrow, it's just going to keep on rolling. Um, so anyway, look out for those altcoin scams. Don't fall for them. Stay away from any of that stuff. And like my boy Morgan said, don't even get on one of those exchanges. I don't recommend getting on Coinbase or crypto.com or any of that stuff. Find you a good Bitcoin only exchange. Even better, find a Bitcoiner that's just old and he just needs cash. You got cash, he's got Bitcoin. He's no longer accumulating Bitcoin. Buy straight from a peer. Buy straight from him. It's if you can meet these guys at Bitcoin meetups, become friends with them, and if you want to buy some Bitcoin, buy direct. But if not, get on River, get on Strike. I buy on both. Bitcoin only exchange. Take custody of your Bitcoin. You better take custody of your Bitcoin. You're going to learn the hard way. Okay, something's going to happen. I love Jack Mallers, but he's not Superman. He might something might happen to him, and we might lose one of our heroes. He's like kind of one of my heroes, but like Bitcoiners say, be ready to slay your heroes, or be ready for your heroes to just get old and die someday. And so that's why you have to own your own Bitcoin. Take custody of it. Put it into a hard wallet. Get yourself a cold card, get yourself a Trezor 3 safe. I think that's the one I use, 69, 79 bucks. Learn how to operate a wallet. Start small. Go buy $100. And then start reading. Start your educational journey. Of course, I'm going to pitch, go to a local Bitcoin meetup. I love meetups. Find one, contribute. If there's not one around you, start one. Reach out to me if you need some pointers on how to do it. Take that step to contribute. Like Morgan said, true Bitcoiners at some point feel compelled to give back in some way other than just owning the underlying asset. You've got to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So after you own Bitcoin, figure something out. Mine something, run a node, start a Bitcoin meetup in your city, start a podcast, start education about Bitcoin, bring others close to their Bitcoin, recruit for Bitcoin. All this strengthens the network. All of it strengthens the network. Also, I will add, get on Nostr. Let's start putting content, uploading content to Nostr. Let's start consuming content on Nostr. That's part of free speech. Remember, if Bitcoin's a language, free speech is a big, important part of a language, right? Because if you can't speak a language, what's the point? And so we need a safe space. And that's why you see guys like Jack Dorsey and Jeff Booth and a lot of the Bitcoiners are working really hard to build on the Nostr protocol. And so let's all do our part. This is kind of what I'm doing. I love podcasting. I'm going to get as many Bitcoiners up here on stage with me and hopefully correct all my errors, and we'll learn at the same time. I'll ask the dumb questions for us, and hopefully I can get some guys to give us some smart answers. So my goal is to do a show every night, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday and Saturday is going to be my weekend. 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll have roughly 30-minute, 1-hour show. If it goes a little longer, oh well. And then I'm going to upload them to YouTube. I've got my design team that'll create a thumbnail and create some notes and stuff like that. So it's really cool and can share. If you want to do me a favor, please follow the new X account I just created. I think we're up to like 20 followers. Hopefully we'll be pumping that up with some of our larger guests coming on to speak, and their platforms will kind of boost our numbers. And then help me get the YouTube channel up to 1,000 so I can go live on YouTube. And so then we'll be going live on YouTube. We're already right now going live on X, and soon we'll be putting this on Damus. Now I'm already on my personal platforms as well. So hopefully this is valuable to you guys. I'm glad to get back in the game, glad to be creating again. Thank you all so much for all the encouraging words, for continuing to push me to get back into creating content. I love doing it. I love Bitcoin, and I love my Bitcoiners. Thank you guys so much. This is Craig LeBlanc signing off again with the Daily Bitcoin Podcast. I will see y'all here again tomorrow, same time on X, with Adam O, also known as Denver Bitcoin, as my guest tomorrow. So love you guys. See you tomorrow.